story I want to share with you. This is a story about a selfless act, and I had to share this. When I was in high school, I was in the 10th grade, I decided to take a photography class. And photography was a passion of mine ever since I was a kid. But the cameras I had were automatic cameras, things like that. And for a photography class, you needed to have a SLR camera, single lens reflex. And I didn't have that. My parents had been divorced for a few years. My mother was struggling to even support us, and I wasn't making enough money at my restaurant job. And as a matter of fact, what I didn't realize at that time, I was only 2 months away from being laid off, which I didn't know, obviously. But anyways, I didn't know what to do. And so my mother was going to take a risk because she couldn't afford it, but she was going to try to open up an account. And I don't even remember who it was. It was a catalog. I don't know who it was, but she was going to try to open an account with them and pay monthly fees. But the problem is she didn't even know if she could swing those payments. But she didn't want me to not go to this class. So she said, "Hey, look, here's a camera here. Does this seem like, something you can use?" And I looked at it and I said, "Yeah, that's what we need." And she goes, "Well, why don't you call your uncle and ask him about it and see what his opinion is?" Well, the reason why is my uncle was a professional photographer. He was a professional photographer and artist. He would paint artwork and would do it for commercial reasons. And he did photography work for commercial reasons. He used to go on these travel expeditions and would travel all over the place taking nature photography and things like that. So he would know about cameras more than anybody. So I was a little nervous about calling him because, I would see him at, family functions and all that, but I never spoke to him on the phone. So I called him up and asked for his advice, and he said, "Yeah, tell me what the specs are." So I did that, and he goes, "Yeah, it sounds like a great camera." He goes, "When do you plan on getting it?" And I'm like, and I think I said something like, "My mother said she'll probably do it in a week or so." And he goes, "Okay, all right, yeah, that sounds like a good camera." I'm like, "Okay, thanks." So it's a Saturday, and I still remember clear as day. I was in my bedroom, which was in the basement. And it was a overcast that day, and I was watching the movie On Golden Pond. And what's funny about that is the fact that the first time I saw that movie was at my uncle's house. My aunt and my uncle they always had family parties and everything, and they had it on TV, and I remember watching it for the first time with them. And as a coincidence, it happened to be on this Saturday. So I'm watching the movie, and this was a Saturday. It was early in the morning, or not even early in the morning, about 10 or 11 in the morning. And my mother had to work Saturdays. She worked a lot. That was the only way she could support us. So she ends up calling me and saying, "Yeah, I just got a call from your uncle. He's going to be stopping by. He's got something for you." Oh, okay. So, as it turns out, around 12 noon, he arrives and he says, "I have something for you." And that's when he pulls this out. An Olympus camera. The flash, the lens, the whole thing. A SLR camera. This is one of his cameras that he was using professionally. And he goes, "I want you to have this." And I was like, "Have it? Like, keep it? Or I just borrow it for the class?" He goes, "No, you keep it. It's yours now." And I was like, "Oh, wow, he just gave me one of his cameras." He never asked for anything in return. He just did it. And I think for one thing, he always knew I was an artist. Well, obviously he was my uncle, but he always recognized that in me. Always. He was always supporting me and, giving me guidance and tips on it. And I think when he saw that This was something that I was passionate about. He wanted to do something to help. And he just did it without asking for anything in return. I used this camera throughout that class, and I used it for a long time. I've owned this camera now for, wow, 24 years now or so. A long time. And when things in my life fell apart in the past 2 years, and I had to start selling things that I own, things of value, I looked at this and I was like, you know, I can't do it. I just can't do it. No matter what, I cannot sell this camera. It means something to me. My uncle also, both my aunt and my uncle, I had a movie premiere, my first premiere in New York City. And I was excited about this. And I asked and invited everybody. And not too many people that I knew, not a lot of family members showed up. As a matter of fact, they were the only family members who showed up. Nobody else did. And my uncle had Alzheimer's disease, and he had it pretty bad at that time. But he wanted to go. They both wanted to go. And what amazed me is how he handled his disease. He wasn't going to give up photography. He did have to give up artwork because he just couldn't hold a brush anymore. But he was amazing in how he would maneuver his body and keep the camera straight. And he would figure out how to control it and how to control his tremors by keeping that camera there and just moving his body in a way. And at the time that I had this premiere, he was at his worst. And he was actually scheduled to go into surgery days after this premiere. But he came in and he took some great photos of me there, and he ended up giving me the prints. And he went in for surgery, and he had a stroke. A very serious stroke. And it silenced him. It ended his career. He could no longer walk. He could no longer talk. And although they weren't sure, they believe he was able to recognize people. He would smile sometimes, but that's all he could do. I believe it was 2 years ago now that my uncle died. And, you know, I wasn't blood related to him, but there was a lot I had in common with him. You know, he liked to garden, and, you know, he would plant vegetables, and he liked working outdoors, and he was into landscape photography, and he was an artist. He painted and he drew. And I'm that way too. I've always been that way. You know, I love the outdoors. I love hiking, and photography is a huge passion of mine. And, you know, in any case, I wanted to share this with you because sometimes a selfless act, you have no idea how that can affect someone's life. You know, I don't think my uncle thought this camera would be a part of my life. You know, that I'd still own it to this day. And I told him that too, and I'm so grateful I had the chance to tell him that, you know, before he died, that I still have that camera. And even though I've moved on to digital now and I don't use this anymore, I have it set up right in my office, and it's always there. If you ever have a chance to do something good for someone, and do it. You know, don't care about what you'll get in return. Think about how that may change their life or help them. You know, I will always have this as an inspiration. And knowing that even in my uncle's last days, and I say the last days, you know, he lived about 8 years after he had that stroke, but for the most part, he couldn't do anything. He was immobile, and he couldn't speak anymore, and his career was over. But at least on one of his last times, he was there once again, showing me support. Thanks for watching. Hey, you!
Me?
Yeah, you! Thanks for watching the video. Why not subscribe to my YouTube channel on the left?
Oh, man.
And then go to my website on the right. I have tons of awesome content, cool stuff, and fantastic money-making opportunities. Hey, I'll see you there.
How'd I get in here, man? How'd I get in here, man? Oh, man, get me out of here! Get me out of here, man! Oh, this is trippy! Oh, my God! This is just... Oh, hey! Get me out of here! Oh, man, get me out of here! Oh!